This is the Yokel Idaho Midweek Report, where we give you a quick overview of the news in Idaho for the last week. We'll be looking at how the Idaho Attorney General has petitioned for the removal of ranked choice voting from this November ballot. Also, a new update about the Albertsons and Kroger merger, how it stalls out a little bit. Some stuff about power, which you may have experienced in the Treasure Valley. And then also some things going on with the Idaho Freedom Caucus, if you're aware of who they are. We'll get into that and more as we go through the Midweek Report here. But starting off with the main story for this week, we have a press release that came out by the Idaho Attorney General that is petitioning the Idaho Supreme Court to remove a ballot measure. This press release mainly came out challenging the ranked choice voting initiative, that it shouldn't be on the ballot. Specifically, the reasons that Labrador has argued on that is that despite a previous court ruling, the initiative sponsors have continued to misrepresent the proposal as implementing an open primary type of system, which originally the court say it didn't, but he's saying they still are, so he's petitioning to get that readjusted. Additionally, he argues that it violates the single subject rule, so when you have an addition that's going onto the ballot, it can only be for one thing. It can't be like, okay, we want to change this, and then here's a list of other sub things. It needs to be just one single thing. He's arguing that they're doing more than one thing with this new initiative, specifically that it's combining stuff that's the changes that would be done to the general election for ranked choice voting with the primary system. So two different things that he's arguing that they're trying to do there simultaneously. But moving forward, it's gone to the Idaho Supreme Court. We'll see how it handles it there, what they do with it, if they accept it, or if they're going to talk about or work on it or evaluate. Probably it coming from the Attorney General, they're going to take it a little bit more seriously than some Joe Schmo. It'll be very interesting because ranked choice voting is something that is currently being debated heavily in Idaho politics when it comes to the ballot this November. But another thing that's been debated and gone back and forth, and different federal commissions and other attorney generals have been going on, is the Albertsons and Kroger merger. I have a new update on that, specifically out of Colorado, but it affects us because Albertsons is a big company here in Idaho. The proposed $24.6 billion merger between Kroger and stuff has hit a bit of a roadblock because the Colorado Attorney General, Phil Weiser, has announced that both companies both of them have agreed to a preliminary injunction, which that means is that it's halting the deal that would have gone through and the outcome of it so that a trial can be set on September 30th. To look for that. For those that maybe haven't heard some of the other stuff that we've been talking about and reporting on this in your first time here, this kind of leads with a bunch of other legal challenges that have been going on. Specifically, there's been one in Washington State also filed. I don't know if we've done here one in Idaho, but there might be. Idaho doesn't like to mess a lot. And then there's also the Federal Trade Commission that they've done some stuff. The pause pushes the merger pretty dangerously close to the deadline that they both agreed on, to October 9th is when that deadline's set, which after that October 9th deadline, both of the companies are open based on the contract and the deal they originally made to walk away, which if that did happen and it was Albertsons' fault or whatever else, it would be a $600 million breakup fee. Albertsons could be not looking so well because Kroger wants that to happen. But looking specifically at Kroger's view on this, they view it as welcome news. Got to keep the facade up for an opportunity to defend the merger's benefits. We'll see what the outcome comes out of this. It's uncertain, especially because there's trying to make sure there's not monopolistic practices and different things going on. The trial's going to, for the concrete things, focus on concerns about competition, food pricing, job and consumer choice in the grocery industry. All the stuff about, okay, is this merger actually going to increase competition? Is it going to be good for food prices? Or are they going to have a monopoly on it and stuff? What does this mean for jobs? Is there certain places that are going to close down where the primary employer is Albertsons, right? And just the overall grocery industry, what will be the impact based on the trials and stuff? Very interesting to see. An ongoing saga that's been going on for a little bit, but we'll see what happens there. Speaking of something that's a little bit of a saga, the Idaho Freedom Caucus is going through some growing pains here, some turmoil to say the least. It has had a dispute that has erupted over the leadership and ownership of the caucus brand this last week. This kind of pits members against the National State Freedom Caucus network. So there's the whole network nationwide, and then there's the one that's specifically here that represents it here in the Idaho legislature. Specifically going into the details on this, the Idaho Dispatch did a really great article. I'm trying to fit this in a minute and 30 for you type of thing, but if you really want to go into the nitty-gritty and all the quotes and all the things, go check out their article there. The controversy, for the most part, centers on the director position with who actually holds it. Senator Scott Herndon has been announced as a new director on a Substack post, while Maria Nate insists that she remains the official director recognized by the national network, according to quotes that the Idaho Dispatch got there. But adding to the confusion, the organization has also disavowed several prominent Idaho lawmakers, those including Representative Heather Scott and Tammy Nichols, over kind of some of the things. There's a lot of bits moving on here. I tried my best to understand it. If you're not tracking, that's fine. You can go read the quote, the article there. It goes into more depth. It's hard to fit this all into this minute thing. I can't stress that enough. But it seems also that confusion is over the ownership, and there's some things also going on with the caucus and logo and social media account and stuff. Moving forward, the takeaway from this, it is all confusing, but the main thing you can take away as a viewer or as a constituent of these people is that this strife and issue as we roll into the 2025 legislative session is worrying, because the Idaho Freedom Caucus is the main group that pushes more conservative policy in the state and things, and causing this fracturing and stuff could affect their main policy, which they call their Idaho First policy. So hopefully they'll be able to ride the ship. Some of these people I care about very much and I think do a very wonderful job, and they can figure out what's going on before the session gets into gear. And speaking of struggles, many of you in the Treasure Valley area and just the southern part of the state, southwest part of the state, probably experienced some power cuts and stuff. Many residents here in Idaho and over in Oregon have experienced some power outages this last week. This is mainly because Idaho Power did its first ever, historic here, public safety power shutoff, which they're calling a PSPS plan, because we like acronyms. It happened last Wednesday, July 24th at about 5:30 p.m. there. It affected nearly about 23,000 customers, which ended up with no electricity. And no less when it was also hot, because kind of want those ACs, so we're not frying. Thankfully, it's cooled down a little bit. The utility company did the shutoffs. The primary reason is a precautionary measure against potential wildfires. So with the strong winds and stuff that were coming through about that time, some of them even predicting gusts up to 70 miles per hour throughout the area, they were shutting down the power so that if the wind did knock over a power line or whatever else, it wouldn't spark a fire or something else, and just trying to take a preventive effort to keep the possibility of fires and stuff moving through, and probably maybe a little bit of maintenance, but that's me adding that in. An Idaho Power spokesperson, Brad, emphasized that this is a last resort measure for public safety, mainly in high-risk areas with dry fuels and populated regions. So trying to really cut down on the potential causes of wildfires, and that hitting people in areas that are high risk is the reason they went for it. So sorry for all of you that were out of AC. It wasn't that the power company or lines were down or whatever else. They were trying to be preventative. And I was reading some reports, nothing that I could get substantially for this, where different areas, they did have lines go down, but thankfully it didn't cause any fires. And then they maintained those and fixed those while the power was down and got them back up. So it was less stress for those power crews, and no fires or wildfires were caused in those areas that they did that. Which, if you liked hearing about that and the report thus far, please hit the like button on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitter. It helps us reach more folks who love Idaho just like you. And also keeping on the topic of heat, it has gripped Idaho for quite a little bit here, and it's set a couple records. Boise has experienced several consecutive days of temperatures exceeding 100 degrees this last week and kind of the following weeks, as we've talked about. Boise saw its hottest day this year on July 10th and the 21st, both reaching a scorching 108. I think there was 111 somewhere in there. But funny enough, this isn't the highest record that Boise's ever hit. In 1998, Boise hit 111, which is just, thankfully I wasn't alive at that time. And historically, the biggest period that we've had the highest heat in the Boise, or kind of the Treasure Valley area, is from July 18th to August 4th. So we're still in that window of the highest heat. But once we get past the 4th, welcome to Farmer's Almanac, right? We should be cooling down. We shouldn't be in our hottest period anymore. But on average, that period between July 8th and the 4th, we have an average about 94 degrees Fahrenheit. So it will be hot, but if we hit our average for that time period, it still will be cooler than what we've been experiencing lately. But that also brings us something interesting, and I was literally talking with my dad about this week, is that the Treasure Valley is not actually the place that has had the highest heat record in the state. The hottest temperature recorded in Idaho was 118 degrees. That record was set in Orofino on July 28, 1934. Lewiston holds the second highest temperature at 117 degrees, recorded in 1939. Definitely some hot temperatures. Lewiston, surprisingly, it is funny when I travel. You'll go up north and you'll drop by Lewiston, and you guys are regularly a lot hotter than we actually are in the Treasure Valley, even though you're further north. If you think you're cooking, just say a brief prayer for those that live up there in the Lewiston area. And speaking of things out in the heat with fairs, as we've talked about on the Sunday show, and I think we've reported on this a little bit, the North Idaho Fair is eyeing an expansion. They unveiled a plan for a $280 million master plan to revitalize and expand the Kootenai County Fairgrounds there. The project, if it all works out and everything, would span about 6 phases, potentially covering about 30 years. It aims to grow the fair area and community event center because there just seems to be a growing demand for the need for those in the area. I've heard you guys are growing a bit. For the first phase, the cost for that would be about $50 million. It would include a new expo hall and a multi-purpose livestock building for the different fairs, and the expo building is really nice if you want to have events wheel through. But those future phases would possibly include an indoor arena, an expanded RV park, and then just in general improved infrastructure. But there are some key parts to this. The plan kind of hinges on the securing of a long-term lease with the Kootenai County Commissioners. The fair CEO, Alexa Jordan, emphasized that the project will rely on private donations and grants, not tax dollars. So if you're worrying that your tax dollars are going to go too heavily to this and it's being subsidized and the government is spending all your money on something that will just bring benefit to out-of-state businesses, it would be done by private dollars and grants and stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. But in any case, moving forward, some of the funds have already been secured, but the big holdup here is that some of the more major funders are waiting to see the agreement, because if you don't have the agreement for the land, you don't renew the lease, then you can't build on the new location. So there's a certain amount of that going on there where they're trying, the major donors are waiting to see how things play out before they put their money in the pool there. The general overall proposal I've seen has people pretty excited, and there seems to be a lot of public support around it. Many are urging, obviously, if they want it, the commissioner to keep the fairgrounds at its current location. I haven't actually been up there, but from what I hear, it's a great location in a really great spot. So hopefully that works out. It'll be interesting. We'll continue to report on that as that story develops there. But one that has been an ongoing saga in the state and coming just down a little bit is the new report here about the Idaho 55, which has just had a lot of issues. There were some recent traffic backups that were caused by the concrete barrier replacement, which that was because a portion of the barrier along a about 200-foot section was discovered to be failing, because a portion of the barrier along a 200-foot section was discovered to be failing after the 2022-2023 winter season. So this last winter season, they saw some issues going on there. It definitely has been a bit of a saga with Idaho 55. For those that haven't been keeping up with it, the initial project aimed to widen the road and has actually mostly been successful and completed that. But to do that, it has faced some significant delays and cost overruns and multiple landslides that we've talked about off and on. It was originally estimated about $30.8 million, but ended up costing nearly double. ITD did have a spokesperson respond to the issue about why they were doing the replacement and why there was a slowdown with traffic last week on there. They were saying that there was no public risk, that yes, they saw that it was not working right, it had failed, but it was nothing of a public risk, and that they didn't spend the full amount on the contractor since it was faulty concrete. They spent about half than they would have otherwise, and so the other half is going towards the replacement costs to get it up to spec to what it should be so it can last a winter and be more permanent. But moving forward, the overall project does go into its next phase here with the rerouting and replacement of the Rainbow Bridge beginning. I'll have a link down in the description where you can go look at that. I think they're going to have a Zoom thing so you can meet on that, and also a thing in person where they're trying to decide how they want to replace the bridge and different stuff. There's been some earthquakes that have happened in that area that have affected some stuff. So now they've widened it further up the way. They're moving down towards the bridge. But for those of you that got stuck in the traffic heading up there to McCall or coming down from McCall, that must have been not fun, but all for a good cause. Which, if you had friends that were stuck in that traffic and didn't know what was going on there, please share that, or any other stories we've gone over in this report thus far. It helps us spread the word and really just keep Idaho informed and engaged about what's going on in our beautiful state. And staying up in the northern part of the state, I know we had the fair and then we went to the road, but now back to kind of Kootenai County and some city council stuff. Kootenai County is weighing a 3% tax increase for their 2025 budget. They're looking at this tentatively to balance out the books up there. However, the final tax rate remains undecided. The budget discussion on this kind of centers around the cost of living adjustments for county employees, with recommendations ranging from 2.5% to 4%. Commissioner Bill Brooks advocated for a minimum of a 3.5% increase, citing economic pressures on workers. While on the flip side, Commissioner Bruce Matter and Lisa Duncan leaned towards more a 2.5% increase for that, just mainly because cost of living's gone up. They're trying to make the pay commensurate with the employees there. The preliminary balanced budget is set for publication on August 1st, so I don't have the link for that yet, but if you want to go look out, you can. And then there's a public hearing, though, scheduled for August 28th, so you can go put your kind of 2 cents in there if you think it's too high or too low, whatever else. The overall goal of this is to strike a balance between the two of supporting county employees, but also trying to be considerate of the financial impact on residents. After that meeting on the 28th, the final budget is assumed to be adopted on August 30th, but there is a chance for further adjustments and stuff going forward. So if you've heard this and you're up there in Kootenai County, you may want to get involved if you don't like some of the details you're hearing about what's going on with the budget there. And speaking of budgets and coming back down to the valley, Boise has finalized its 2025 budget, which comes with some more money. The Boise City Council has approved a $549.1 million budget. The vote on that was 5 in favor, 1 against. The details of the budget is to fund various projects and also deal with rising costs. The council approved the maximum property tax increase allowed by state law, which is 3%, so plus $1.8 million in foregone taxes, which I had to stop real quick, and I'll do this as quick as I can. Foregone taxes, for those, if you need to understand what exactly that is, what's the difference? So you have normal, if when you pay for something, you have the normal price of things, and that is the full tax amount. That's the equivalent thing if you're thinking of a synonym. Then when you have sales price, when you're thinking about taxes, that's the reduced tax amount if you have a business or something. And then a discount, like you go to a store and you get a discount or something, or in this case, a business, right? That's foregone tax revenue. So the amount of tax that was generated from discounted properties, like incentivizing builders and stuff to do so. So when they're saying foregone taxes of 1.8 million, that's like discount money that they've gotten from people. But coming back to you, the constituent, homeowners can expect an average of about a $58 increase on their property tax bill. The main reason that those taxes are being raised and what they're going to is a new fire station in North Boise, library upgrades, and a property tax rebate for in-home childcare providers. It also includes a 3% raise for city staff. So that's all that's concluded in there. But that's the stuff that taxes is going through. But as you heard above, it was a 5-1 decision. So the one person that was against that was Councilmember Lucia Willits. She cited concerns over new middle management position stuff, that there's there's too many extra jobs that are being generated. On the flip side, argues supported it was necessary for Boise's growth and future needs, which most times that's the argument that's given with money as well. Similar thing with that, and continuing on and trying to get through these things, is Meridian's $256 million budget has sparked some serious debate as well. A proposed budget of about $256 million for this kind of upcoming year. Mayor Robert Simeons has requested a full 3% property tax increase, which if you remember the earlier bit, that's the highest they could go there, plus an additional 1% for foregone tax revenue. The main factors cited by the city for these cost increases is risk management premiums and public employee retirement obligations that they've committed to. Also, this budget would include funding for new full-time employees in police, legal, public works departments, as well as reduced allocations for a community center. So if you're wondering what that money is going for, the city council approved the proposal budget for the 3% increase. The debate was more over the 1% foregone tax part. Moving forward, there is a public hearing scheduled for August 20th if you have some objections or you want to just see what's going on with that. They're looking to see what citizens' feedback is and give their final approval at that meeting. So if you really want to affect, that's where you need to go there. Which, if you want to keep up to date on all of the things Idaho that we talk about here and not miss the next Midweek Report or any of the stuff we talk about, please make sure to subscribe or follow us so you don't miss any of that content. And speaking of something that also has to do with city councils, and Eagle just can't make up their mind about, the Chick-fil-A over there, the city council has again approved the location there. This again happened because Mayor Brad Pike broke a tie in favor of it. For those kind of giving a little context, it's a 15-acre mixed-use project at Highway 54 and Edgewood Lane. This marks the fourth decision that the city council has done over there since March, which it's on the East End Marketplace is the specific location. Developer Caleb Rope made some concessions to make this all work for the fourth time here, including removing one of the drive-through restaurants and enhancing the landscape there as they wanted. The project will now include the Panera Bread alongside Chick-fil-A. Councilmember Melissa Gendelsberger's, with a last-minute change of her vote, coupled with Craig Cavant's support as well, pushed it across the line there. For background, for those that haven't been keeping up with what's been going on with this, the decision comes after a lawsuit was filed by the developer against the city in June because it withdrew its approval over traffic concerns. So there's been a ping pong going back and forth. First, the city council approved it. Then they took it back and said no because we have traffic concerns. Then the lawsuit was filed, and now you get the present day where they finally changed again. And similarly, the mayor had to step in and break the ties they did on the first vote for approval. So it'll be interesting to see what keeps going on there because the city council there in Eagle seems to have a little bit of frustration making a decision there. But traveling a little more westward in the Treasure Valley here, West Nile virus was detected over in Canyon County, specifically detected in mosquitoes near Parma. This marks the first positive case of this virus in Canyon County this season. The Canyon County Mosquito Abatement District found the virus in mosquito pools, so not per se in a mosquito per se, which were collected on last Wednesday. Giving a little bit of context here, this makes Canyon County the second Treasure Valley county to report West Nile virus this summer. The district's response includes control measures, treating the affected area for both larvae and adult mosquitoes. For most people infected with West Nile virus, you actually won't feel sick, but it might cause some severe illnesses in 1 in 150 cases. If you're the odd person out, you might not feel the greatest there. Moving forward, the officials are recommending that people use insect repellent or protective clothing and to eliminate standing water so that there's less chance for mosquitoes to have breeding grounds there. And if there's a larger body of water, residents are urged to take precautions and report the large pools of water to the district so they can treat them to reduce the chances of that. But also speaking of ending that, we're coming to our last story here, which will zoom from the Treasure Valley over to Eastern Idaho. I know we haven't talked about you a lot, but here's at least one story, which is the Rexburg Drive-In Theater over there. It is closing after 75 years. The Teton View Drive in Rexburg will be closing on August 24th. The reason is the land is slated for a major housing development. They don't own it per se, and they're leasing it, and so the leasers decided to finally develop it, and they've given them a little bit of time because legal things happen, but August 24th will be the last one for that. For context, for those of us in the rest of the state that aren't over at Rexburg, the owner, Cameron Andrews, has operated the drive-thru for 15 years. He knew the day would come that the location would probably be developed because it's a prime location for that. But the housing project that is going in to replace it will include about 410 housing units, and construction is potentially going to start in about September. For a little bit of history of the drive-in, it opened in early 1950, and it has survived several ownerships. Survived maybe being the keyword, because some people know what they're doing, some they don't. It has also gone through the Teton Dam flood over there, and also saw actually a big uptick in consumption there during the pandemic and stuff, where they were social distancing, but people wanted to still get out and watch movies and stuff. But moving forward, one cool element about it, even though it's closing, which is sad, so the developers plan to incorporate parts of the original screen into the new architecture for the neighborhood there. With that said, until August 28th, if you're in the area over there in Eastern Idaho, you might want to just drop by one more time to see and maybe watch a movie before it finally goes away. And speaking of going away, I'm sorry, but I have to leave. It's the end here. Thank you for listening to the entire report. I hope you found it enjoyable and valuable. I know I have a lot of joy writing it and making it for you. If you like the Midweek Report, please check out the Sunday show that we did last Sunday. There won't be one this week. We're taking a little bit of a break, but there's a nice catalog of those to go through where John and I talk about the main stories going on in Idaho and break them down. We've been going through an Idaho bill breakdown, breaking down the bills that have been signed into law. Also, if in this report we missed any important points or provided incorrect information, please feel free to reach out to us via email at lyimedia@protonmail.com or on Twitter @localyocalidaho. We do our best to cover the most interesting stories, but we're a small outfit here, so thank you for your support as we continue to do that. That's all for now, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Godspeed.